Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast.
Welcome to the Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast. I'm TC Ricks, and this is the next installment of The 7 Sins of Silicon Valley. This episode is called The Tyrant of Mars. So, I'm just going to start off by saying flat out that Elon Musk is freaking cool, right? When I was researching this and considering how I was going to approach this for a very long time, there was an exception to the rule about the Dark Lords of Silicon Valley, which was Elon Musk. And while I knew he was flawed, as many leaders or great changers are flawed, I still liked him. And he is still cool. Quite frankly, he's like a combination of Tesla and Edison in the sense that he has the business acumen to make widespread industrial change happen and the actual talent to back it up instead of stealing other people's ideas. The problem came when Elon Musk decided that because the COVID virus was affecting his Tesla sales, that he would leap in and say that it was a hoax. Folks, I'll put up with a lot of things. I will put up with him calling a man in Thailand who thinks that his submarine idea to rescue a bunch of trapped children in a sunken cave was fucking ridiculous. A pedophile, because it wasn't convenient for him. I'll put up with his disgusting anti-union activities. And I'll even put up with him being on an advisory board for Donald Trump. I will not put up with somebody being a fucking ally of a virus. There's another podcast episode I did called Thoughts on the Allies of Viruses, and I'll leave that there. But more importantly, it was the perfect way to outline the problems with the technology culture in Silicon Valley. It is no accident that the first 2 installments I did were on the dangers of Silicon Valley culture being in charge of immortality or AI, both of which are passions of Elon Musk. So I want to highlight another because the problem is that the technology culture is not just a problem for our future, it's not just a problem for our present, it's a problem for our future. And I want to highlight a third example of that in this, and that is his passion for Mars, right? Elon Musk's singular biggest accomplishment, more than even if he succeeds in completing the Neuralink or his tunnel companies or the electric car, is his ability to create a reusable rocket, right? That is why, no matter how much I may dislike Elon Musk, I cannot say the man isn't cool. Anyone who is able to create a goddamn reusable rocket and open the heavens again when they've been closed due to the incompetence of Boeing and Lockheed Martin and NASA for decades is freaking cool. But you know what? Cool isn't necessarily someone you want in charge of a colony on Mars. So I am an ally of space exploration, manned space travel. I get the whole idea of we have enough problems here, we need to solve them first. But quite frankly, that's bullshit, mainly because a lot of the people who advocate that are hypocrites and don't really do anything to help out here themselves. And the few that have a legitimate street cred to say that we shouldn't do space exploration are usually ignorant of the subject and the potential benefits thereof. And of the small handful that have the street cred to criticize space exploration and actually understand what the fuck they're talking about, Frankly, I just disagree with most of their positions. The fact of the matter is that if you're trying to help Earth and the people on it, a robust space program is a life giver because we can get a lot of materials and toxic manufacturing that must happen for civilization to occur and put it in space. In space, there's unlimited energy, right? You could get all the energy you need from solar panels, and yes, you can get quite a bit here, but in space, it's unlimited. In space, if you manufacture something, there is no atmospheric or environmental blowback as long as you're not a complete idiot. Here's the problem with Elon Musk and his passion for Mars. I think he's going to succeed. Unlike anybody else in history who has had this kind of vision, we haven't had somebody with the motive, means, and opportunity to create a colony in literally hundreds of years. But I do actually want to take a brief sidestep, and let's look at some of the people who, historically speaking, have been colonizers. First of all, the term colonization or colonialism is now practically a synonym for imperialism. And while I, just like a lot of other people, enjoy genres that show erudite European explorers traveling the world in the late 19th century on adventures against mummies and supernatural things, or Indiana Jones traveling the world in exotic locations that are essentially controlled by dying imperial governments, the fact of the matter is that imperialism basically means one government thinks that it has the right to your property, and is one of the few instances where the government of China actually has legitimate complaints about other cultures because they were the victim of imperialism. Of course, as former victims of imperialism, they feel that they are entitled to be imperialists on their own and are shackling China or shackling Africa with unrighteous debt that Africa takes because there's no strings attached. But now, thanks to COVID, they're starting to realize that there's some problems with this. Anyway, Christopher Columbus is a particularly egregious example, not only because one of the first things he thought of when he reached the Americas was how useful its population would be for slaves, but before he went on his expedition, which, again, if I'm going to call Elon Musk cool, I will call Christopher Columbus courageous. He was ignorant in the sense that he drastically underestimated the size of the Earth to get his expedition outfitted. But the fact of and there were people who had gone from Europe to the New World before him, namely the Vikings. But nevertheless, a state-sponsored voyage from Europe to the New World in 1492 was incredibly courageous, and he nearly failed. Again, I'll call, there might be somebody that I disagree with, but I'll call, I can give positive praise to somebody that has negative qualities. But what most people don't realize, even a lot of the people who like Columbus, is that aside from being a religious wackaloon who believed himself to be a prophet, he basically got himself all kinds of insane titles that if he succeeded, he would get wealth beyond his wildest dreams. Admiral titles, governorship titles, wealth, nobility. He got himself a coat of arms. And, there's nothing wrong with wanting to enrich yourself as long as it's not at the expense of other people. And given that ultimately Columbus was responsible for the smallpox genocide of the New World, along with a number of conquistadors that came after him, I think we can definitely say that his attempts at enriching himself was definitely at the expense of other people. So now I want to posit a scenario to you with Elon Musk succeeding in Mars. 20 years from now, he's successfully built 1,000 ships that every 2 years, let's assume there's no radical advances in the ion drive that allow this to happen at any time, or magnetic shielding, which quite frankly may happen, and that we simply go with Elon Musk's current vision that every 2 years, when Mars is as close as possible to the Earth, they get in the rocket ships and they go to Mars, 1,000 at a time over a 10-year period. You get a self-sustaining colony on Mars of 100,000 people. Folks, Mars is so far away that it takes, by the speed of light, a couple of minutes for a communication to get back and forth there, right? Mars is not close. It's about, I think, I'd have to look up the numbers, but I think it's about 100 million miles away. And I might be wrong about light speed. It might be 8 seconds, but I might be mixing up the moon and Mars. Here's what's obvious, folks. If even Elon Musk, who has every passion about this, in his current plans is only planning on going to Mars once every 2 years with rockets that work as reliably as the Model T or the AK-47, which by then would have been very thoroughly tested with a very intelligent, erudite, and accurate engineering platform that's iterative because that process works. Basically you're Elon Musk and you're the mayor of Elon Town on Mars. Let's say he calls it Teslaville rather than Elonville, but everybody's going to call it Elonville or the equivalent thereof, because everybody knows that the man who's in charge is Elon Musk, right? And even if the federal government and China and other people have their own colonies, ultimately Tesla is going to be so far ahead in terms of their infrastructure that unless the United States government nationalizes SpaceX, which is highly unlikely, the government may change a lot, Democrats may win, and but the moderates are more likely to be in charge than progressives, and even the progressives aren't that enthusiastic about nationalizing companies, right? So in other words, SpaceX is going to be SpaceX and its own corporate entity for a very long time. And I want you to imagine some of the hypotheticals if a guy like Elon Musk is in charge of 100,000 people so far away from any other power or government that he's essentially in his own little kingdom, right? This is an environment harsher than Antarctica, right? In Antarctica, while you might freeze to death, you can breathe, right? There's oxygen, there's water. If you're near the coast, there's food. There's no such thing in Mars. Like, there is the material to create these things. There's water in the soil. There's a thin atmosphere. You can create soil that will allow food to exist, but all of these things will have to be created. And while he said this, most people don't realize it, but the Boring Company basically exists to help create tunnels, or to learn how to create tunnels to enable the Mars colony. But here's the thing. Like I said, I think Musk is going to succeed at his goal. I think that we are going to get a Mars colony. The problem is, as I said, when you have somebody that is willing to deny that the virus is real, no matter what he personally believes, just to help his SpaceX sales, then this is a man who is not fit to be in charge of 100,000 people on Earth, much less 2 years from help, right? Imagine, if you will, 20 years from now, right after the apex has happened, so every day that passes is the Mars gets farther and farther away from Earth, or the ability for anybody to intercede. A miracle happens, and they find a virus on Mars, or a bacteria, life on Mars, right? It's the holy grail of xenobiology. It's the holy grail of life sciences. And for even the people who advocate unmanned exploration of Mars, all of them would agree that discovery of life on another planet is a huge deal. In fact, for many of these people, although many of these people also hate civilization or humanity existing at all, we'll ignore that for now and move on. But the point is that many people argue against us colonizing on other planets because they consider it an ethical violation of allowing each life to potentially evolve into its own civilization. Of course, the very fact that many of these people also think that civilization shouldn't exist is the ultimate hypocrisy. But again, stupidity. The fact of the matter is that if this life was discovered, well, Elon Musk is in charge of it, right? Even if there's a small governmental enclave, the federal government has, with Elon Musk's permission, set up, say an FBI office on Mars. And by the way, how cool would that be? I'm not just a federal special agent for the FBI, but I'm the only Martian FBI agent. They're still vastly outnumbered, right? In other words, Musk's corporate security is basically the government. They own this thing. And let's say it has a commercial value, because we've already established that Musk is willing to put his own people at risk for his own financial gain. He's going to commandeer this thing. Why wouldn't he? Especially if it aligns with his personal goals. If it either enhances the economy of Mars, or maybe in some way makes Neuralink easier, or digital immortality easier, or some other goal that we don't even know that he has yet. Musk has shown himself to be a budding Lex Luthor. He's part Tony Stark, but he's also Lex Luthor. And the fact of the matter is that he is willing to put other people's health or their financial security at risk for his own. And so it's not that much of a stretch to imagine if the space flu gets out of the lab, right? And people on Mars start to get sick. This could just as easily happen with a real world sickness, because illness in space can be deadly, because everything in space is deadly, right? So space flu or regular flu, he is 2 years away from anybody being able to stop him in any way, shape, or form. And before you say, well, people would stop him. Well, we have a madman in the office in the White House right now, and nobody's stopping him. 40% of the people on this in our country support him. And everybody who gets into a rocket and risks their life to help build life on a lifeless rock 100 million miles away has put their faith in Elon Musk. So they're not going to be so fast to stop a man who, let's say, for example, to make his quota for increasing the size of the city, or, build project X, Y, or Z, tells people that there is no space flu. It doesn't exist. So if it was a problem in the current time and on our current planet for him to tell his workers, you need to go in and keep making cars to make me rich so I can go to Mars, what's going to happen when he tells people to keep digging tunnels to build that hydroponics bay because he wants Mars to get 200,000 people in the next 5 years? This is a man who should not be in charge of anything, no matter how cool he is and no matter what results he gets. This is a man who is basically, morally speaking, the same as Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus was courageous and ambitious we should call that what it is. But he killed 100 million indigenous people, either directly or indirectly, by bringing smallpox. You want to understand the consequences of some of that. There's a lot of good books, one of which I like is called Guns, Germs, and Steel, which, among other things, unequivocally explains that Europe is not that special. The reason they dominated is a unique series of historical factors that let them get ahead. And the fact of the matter is that Elon Musk is not that special. He just possesses he possesses a combination of skills that let him be at the right place at the right time and exercise his ambition in a way that others could have done. Eventually, these things may have happened. Now, granted, one man may not have done all of these things. And again, I'll call Elon Musk cool. But the fact of the matter is that being cool does not entitle you to power over other people 100,000 miles or 100 million miles away. And Elon Musk is the poster child of everything that is wrong with the tech culture of Silicon Valley. And the tech culture of Silicon Valley is the poster child of everything that is wrong with our society in general. Capitalism is a big problem. And 50% of the tech culture is capitalism. So I'm going to continue to talk about the problems and the companies that the tech culture creates. And I'm going to demonstrate that not only is capitalism unchecked a problem, but culture that is not contained and cultivated in a way that ensures that one man who is good but